Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chupacabra's Lair, and we're back again for another awesome Game Jam showcase with the Public Domain Game Jam. And the purpose of this Game Jam is to sort of break into the wonderful, very lush realm of public domain stories in order to find inspiration to make a game based upon the theme paper. And with that in mind, we have different games exploring everything from the H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds to Edgar Allan Poe and his crazy writing and some of his various antics over the years. So let's just jump right in here and check out the first game of The Black Spot. The Black Spot, then, is a game that delves into some of the different intricacies of the story of Treasure Island, which is a tale of misfit pirates and buccaneers out for treasure on a long, far-away island left behind by another pirate and his legendary trove of riches. And so, as you can well imagine, it has to deal with the pirate notion of giving someone the black spot. Most notably, how such a small scrap of paper can strike fear into the hearts of what would normally be fearless men who go out and sink ships and steal all sorts of booty and go well about pillaging and murdering without nary an eyebrow raised. And so, in order to delve into those sorts of moments, the game behaves much like you would imagine an interactive storybook. It gives you some sort of pretext or background as to what is going on in the scene you are about to experience, much like the prologue to a live-action play or something out of Shakespeare you might see in high school. And then you don the appearance of a minor character, and you deliver this note of death and destruction to its unlikely receiver. And in the case of the beginning of the game, you are given the task of delivering it to the man who has the map to Treasure Island, I believe. And as you approach in the midst of a dark and dank night, you call out and someone hands you the black spot, which oddly looks like a mannequin, and then you go inside and you deliver it. And then the man, not just so taken aback, has a heart attack right on the spot and stumbles over dead. And then from here you explore different characters, not a huge host of them, but a few, that sort of gives you the idea of what exactly it is that this means in the context of pirate culture, or at least in the side of Treasure Island. So the game itself is pretty straightforward. There's a lovely bit of text that you have to read. It's kind of hard to read 8-bit styled text, but not completely impossible. And then it's got a very lovely 8-bit artwork in the background that I think could be built out and to tell the entirety of the Treasure Island story, much like you would imagine the King's Quest games. You have to find items and go about getting the treasure and back to civilization without getting murdered or given the black spot. Other than the game felt like it could be longer, and I really actually enjoy things that are like interactive storybooks, because the only thing that I actually know about Treasure Island is what I've learned from the Muppets movie about it. I had a couple issues with some of the text sort of takes off without you, and one of the things that makes it a little bit more accessible when you have a harder time reading the text like myself is just let me read until I'm done and then just give me something to say, okay, we're good, let's keep going with the story. Some of them do when you jump between acts or the different stories, but one of them in particular, before you were on the wharf getting stabbed by one of the pirates, I had to go back and finish reading a second time and relive that scene. But on the whole, I really like the concept of the black spot, and it does sort of give you the idea of, you know, the sort of barbaric murderiness that is pirates, even in a storybook quite like Treasure Island. So very nice job, and this was a game by Six Down Studios, so very nice job, guys. I rather enjoyed this, and I hope you create other games like this. Definitely expand on this, it was pretty good. The next game up on my list is The Paper Time Machine, which, as you could well imagine, is based off of the story The Time Machine, where a sort of disenfranchised scientist has to travel back in time with his magnificent time machine in order to save the love of his life, unless I'm completely mistaking the story. And this is a game done by Deisler X, and The whole goal of this game is you have to run through the Victorian-era streets in order to reach your time machine before either the Doom Spikes or the Popo or your rival attempt to stop you from going back in time and changing the future, and all of the different catastrophic events that can happen therein. And so, in order to achieve this in something of a game, we are given a platformer jumping game where we have to scale various boxes, carts, and plank walkways in order to reach our lab destination and hopefully not fall in the pits of spikes and get murdered. The background art is pretty good. I always like a nice low poly art, and it makes everything look sort of like it's made out of cardboard and your character sort of made out of paper. So you jump along and you got to avoid the spikes, and Mr. Deisler did a lovely job of making some of the wooden boards fall over and try to push you into spikes or catapult you over boxes a little further than you intended, and generally be a little bit tricky with his choice of terrain, which was very nice. That sort of threw me initially. The only problem I had with the actual core mechanic of the game was the controls felt a little bit slidey, in that it was very hard to sort of judge where my character's model was going to land in order to not get my feet stabbed. And I don't know about you, but when I go out tap dancing, I like the soles of my feet to remain thoroughly intact. Other than that, the only thing that particularly bothered me was just the scale of the game. In my window, I play on a 1600 by 900 screen, so a lot of the objects as I was jumping were beyond the limits of the screen, so I had to sort of judge my jumping distance and just hope for the best. So maybe fixing a couple of those might help, and then adding in a little bit of background music, and it's pretty good overall. I really like the whole simple notion of a platformer. Those are always fun. So keep up the good work and throw a couple of those things in there, and I think we got a good thing going. Although I never was able to reach the laboratory, I kept getting to that last little long jump and stabbing my kneecaps on one of the spikes. But good job, sir. Keep up the good work, and I hope to see you at another game jam in the future. After the paper time machine, we have Me and the Martians by Gear. And Me and the Martians is a War of the Worlds type game that has you escaping the deadly alien invaders upon their giant three-legged walkers and trying to find your friends and family before they either find you or you end up starved to death. So you sort of begin in a sort of setting the stage type level where you walk across the street and you read the local paper and it's like, that's weird. It appears we have some alien visitors. Are they here to murder us all? And then you purchase yourself a tin of biscuits and then you go have a sleep for the night. But what is this? You've awoken and there's... Wow, those are really juicy looking alien walkers. I've got to give you guys credit. Those are a very unique alien walker, and that definitely threw me initially, but that was really well done. And so you have to avoid being detected by these aliens so they don't suck you up into their pod and steal your blood, while you find food and hopefully break through all the levels in order to find your family before it's all too late and the aliens take over. And so this is a pretty a nice game. I haven't seen a lot of stealth-related games in Game Jam so far, and so you basically just have to avoid being seen within the beam of light as you go through the different platformed areas, and you have the option of either just hiding in a building or crouching down into a bush, because, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been out of town to another planet, but aliens always look differenty and weird and sort of like foliage when you're invading a planet, and it can be just darn right bothersome to find them. But you've also got to worry about your noise level, because if you make too much racket, well, they'll know you're there even if you're hiding, so be careful. Overall, I like the mechanics. There's some pretty good sounds in the background, and the art is very simple, straightforward, and man, those alien walkers, like, they're very spindly-legged, but they are juicy and tentacly, and got, like, this, like, mechanical metal sheath on the back of them. That was really well done. They kind of spew out some smoke. That was probably the thing that made the game the most real in the sense of the War of the Worlds. And so you just have to sneak around and avoid them, which can be kind of troublesome when you start to get 1 and 2 of them rolling back and forth across the screen, and you've also got to hurry through the levels as quickly as you can, or else you'll just end up starving to death. And I think that's a good mixture of mechanics, and given the sort of background information about the story of the War of the Worlds, there was definitely a lot of hiding and trying to avoid the general populace getting kidnapped and murdered by the aliens. So that was very true to the story. I'm not so sure about the time period or buying cans of biscuits, but certainly a good mechanic to sort of make you want to just get through the level and force you to not just simply be ultra patient and just slowly sneak through the levels. It gives you a reason to kind of get in there and get stuff done. However, I did run into a couple problems. There was this issue where ladders are my biggest enemy. For some reason, when I got to the top of ladders, they didn't always want to let me go. They're very lovable ladders. They just want to just hold on to you forever. So maybe figure that out if you do some further refinements. And then some of the jumping can be a little bit fiddly when you've just been crouching. Other than that, there's not too much to complain about. It's a very straightforward, sort of stealthy platformer game that I really enjoyed. It's very simple and straightforward, but man, if those alien walkers aren't a little bit horrifying as they trudge past you when you're on the lookout for your family member off in vacation off yonder in the north. The only thing maybe extra to play around with is, like, I'm down with the food concept because it gives me, like, something that will definitely immediately kill me if I waste too much time waiting for the aliens to get past. But some of the bigger levels, it was hard to get enough food to get through there to sort of figure out where you're going when you're falling through little platforms constantly. So maybe play around with giving just a little bit extra food here and there, maybe throwing some berry bushes on the large outdoor areas, and I think you guys are good to go. Very nice job, Crew at Gear. Keep up the awesome work. After the Martians, we have The Three Little Pigs by Snoutup. The Three Little Pigs have just had a fantastic dinner, but what's this? We want to go have a nice read on the John, but our coveted supply and stash of toilet paper has gone missing. Looks like the big bad wolf has been up to his dastardly deeds, just when I need to go make a quickie. So you've got to find your way through these levels full of evil, dastardly wolves in order to gather up all your TP before it's too late. And this has got to be the funnier things that I didn't quite expect when you approached the theme of paper. And so, in The Three Little Pigs, you pick a level based upon the variety of outhouse you're standing in front of, and you go through and collect all the pieces of paper and then eventually the roll of paper before you have something streaking down your leg. And in order to do this, you run around and you can jump up onto the sides of platforms and then also do a lot of wall jumping. And the one thing that I've never been satisfied with, the low number of platformer games that allow me to cling to walls and jump back and forth like I'm Spider-Man. And I mean, gotta love Spider-Pig, right? And so in order, you just kind of jump around and you can, for the most part, avoid the wolves. And there's also a really fun sort of graphical art style that sort of draws the whole thing together. It almost looks like a kid's painting from, like, Kid Pix. So that was, the whole thing just makes a really nice, cheerful sort of game. There's really nice, cutesy little sounds when the wolves with machine guns pop you in your little cute piggy face. And I actually think the funniest part was, like, when you're shot in midair, you can get shot again, and the pig keeps making the sound effects, and it's like insult to injury. So that was an interesting thing. I don't think it was intentional, but was kind of cute. The things that were a little bit funky about it that I didn't not like them, but just didn't seem like you got a chance to finish them, were things like, there's a boxing pig mode, which was cute, and there's a bouncy pig, but unfortunately, I never really found a situation where I could get either of those to work properly, because it's like the bouncy pig didn't bounce high enough, and like the fighting pig, I never could get him to sock those wolves with machetes in the mouth. So, you know, I think the one thing I would say about that is maybe just stick with the primary wall jumping pig, or even just denote a specific variety of pig for each of the level types would be perfect. Otherwise, I had a lot of fun just sort of like cleverly avoiding the wolves and then craftily jumping up to the side of platforms and trying to jump up to the next level while also avoiding a bullet and not falling off of the ledge entirely to my piggy doom. So it was a very lovely combination of items. Obviously, I love a good wall climbing platformer, and the overall theme of it was very bubbly and fun. And I mean, whenever you get a chance to beat the crap out of wolves as one of the three little pigs, I mean, that's a classic. Everyone's familiar. Even when they have to go to market and get some extra TP because we couldn't find all of it in the woods. I mean, I guess you could use pine cones, but eh. And along the lines of thinking about refinement, this is also the sort of genre with Three Little Pigs that would be very open to kids and folks of younger ages, just as something to like offer them, because I feel like there's not a lot of really great games, especially not on mobile, for younger kids, at least not ones that don't try to gouge and nickel and dime your kids for every little upgrade like so many games are doing. So otherwise, I had a whole boatload of fun with this, Mr. Snoutup, and I do hope you refine this in the future and maybe fix some of the sound glitches that you claimed you didn't enjoy in there, and I didn't really find any of them over the music that bothered me to any extent. So keep up the good work, and I hope to see you in the next game jam. And then, of course, last but not least, we have War of the Worlds Diaries by Kondo. And this is a really fun sort of papercrafty game that has that sort of artwork and style like someone who's sketching in their notebook during class that I really enjoyed. It reminded me a lot of those different animations and sort of wallpapers with those little animated paper creatures coming out of a notebook and doing warfare on a desk. And so in the War of the Worlds Diaries, you have to sort of experience the past lives of those who fought during the Great Alien Invasion and tried to stop the tripods before they could do any more damage. And of course, doing that, I mean, you take up your weapon and, you know, go out there and fight these giant metal tripods. Oh, wait, did we not mention the giant lasers and the falling rocks and debris from the broken buildings and the general spray of bullets everywhere that makes it hard to figure out what's going on? Well, you should be alright, champ. And so the gameplay is pretty simple enough. You jump right in, the book opens, you play the story of some gentleman whose name is displayed to you, much like how the names are displayed in the game Life Goes On. And let's say you jump as Admiral Meatbag, and he jumps out there, and you just got to try and shoot the gerber-gerbers out of that walking tripod, and stay alive as long as you can, avoiding lasers and falling rocks. And it sounds simple enough, but Mr. Kondo throws us into the midst of a very fast-paced and very deadly battle, and I found it very difficult to, even without worrying about the rocks or trying to shoot, just trying to stay alive, because there isn't a lot of indication or pattern that I could find of how the robot laser fires in order to try and avoid it. And most of the time when I stayed alive for an extended period of time, it was purely by happenstance and not by anything intentional. Nor was I ever quite able to figure out how to kill them. But I was definitely able to live for a whole whopping 20 seconds one time. So I was, well, 20-something, I'm not sure what those are seconds, but a whole whopping 20 units of time. And I was quite proud of myself up until that mech walker leg jutted through my skull and murdered me, and then I was lasered. So the one thing I could say is maybe add like an iris eyeball inside the mech walker, and then maybe indicate some damage being done to it if you can in fact kill them, and I think you're doing pretty well. And maybe just put in like a fixed type of spawn where you spawn near the edge of the area, because a lot of times like I started a round and then I started another round because I got lasered out of the starting gate, which, as you can imagine, is kind of confusing and a little bit awkward. But otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward game. I really enjoy the atmosphere of it and the artwork, and I was always a big fan of the War of the Worlds type stories, even though I never did finish the book. But it was always kind of a fun notion especially because it's that old fun idea of like our human diseases was what ended up murdering them in the first place. So, very nice job. So, keep up the good work, Mr. Kondo and everyone else. It was a wonderful group of 5 games, and I'm probably going to make 1, maybe 2 more for the public domain jam. I was a little bit busy and I didn't quite jump into this as quickly as I'd like. So otherwise, if you have a game you'd like to see me jump into here in the public domain jam that I might not otherwise see out of these 60 games, drop me a line, either in the comments or on Twitter. And I have been, of course, your host, Larry the Chupacabra. Do me a favor and hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe, and I will catch you next time. Toodaloo!